How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Creators Process. My name is Jaden. Right next to me, I have Fleur. How are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
That's good, and I'm very good, thank you. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to come and talk to me on my channel. And yeah, it's all good. And so, tell me a bit about yourself. So, when it comes to the creative arts, what are some of the things you do?
I have my fingers in a lot of pies. So in terms of my kind of journey as an artist, back in high school, I used to write horrendous poetry, like really terrible, like goth poetry. And then when I left school, I really stopped doing writing for quite a long time. And then in 2011, I went through this kind of personal crisis or whatever. And I decided that I wanted to reinvigorate the creative side of my life. And so I started a blog in 2011. So I've been doing that regularly since then. I dabbled in a few different creative processes, but I've kind of settled in a few. So I have a few books that I've written, so I write fiction. I also am a musician, so I have a band that I work with, and I am a model for art classes.
Oh, fantastic. And I think it's like a normal thing in everyday life, as you said, that you went through a bit of a gothic stage. I think we all had that moment of, like, I'm pretty sure I did as well, where we just listened to like either gothic music or we just went through our very gothic stage in our life.
I went through a like really heavy 9 Inch Nails lying in the dark and weeping stage.
Oh wow.
Like, I mean, I still love 9 Inch Nails.
Oh, I think some of those things never change. I mean, like, I used to go through a dark Shinedown stage where I listened to a lot of them. I still listen to them because I love them, their music, but it was like the same sort of thing where you just listen to those type of music and you're just like, it's like that sort of thing. But yeah, so what was one of the, I guess you said you model, you are an author, and you're also in a band. So what was, I guess, the first thing that you got into?
Oh, the first thing. So probably the writing was the first thing that I did. So I started writing properly in probably 2012. So there's a challenge called Nanowrimo, which is National Novel Writing Month.
Okay.
Which is an American thing. They came up with it like a while ago. But the challenge it's a sort of marathon for writing. So the idea is that you write 50,000 words in the month of November.
Oh, wow.
And I've done that 9 times. So
What? 9 times 50,000 words?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so I have 4 novels out, and each of those novels started as a project for NaNoWriMo.
Oh, wow.
The first couple of novels I put out were 50-something thousand, so a little bit short on the typical novel scale, but still an acceptable length. And then the second 2 novels I put out are close to the 80 or 90,000 word.
Wow.
Yeah.
I couldn't even think of 50,000 words to write about. That's amazing. Like, and especially in 1 month you came up with 9, so that's like, what would that be, like maybe nearly
No, I mean, I've done it 9 years in a row.
Oh, 9 years in a row.
Yeah.
I thought you meant in 9 times in the 1 month. I'm like, oh my gosh. But no,
No, that would be incredibly impressive.
Oh, that would be, but no. But even in 1 month doing 50,000 words, because like a lot of novels take a lot more
They do,
time, and it is really hard, I've heard.
I mean, that's the first draft process for me is relatively quick. So, and it might take me another 6 months to get the other 50,000 words.
Okay.
I also find that I'm an overwriter, so I will write too much, and my process is about cutting out the extraneous stuff. So the bits that don't really help or that don't add anything to the story. So, I'll go through and edit various things. So you can go through and do a structural edit. So, making sure the story makes sense.
Yes.
Then you go through and do like a copy edit, so making sure that the sentences are nice and that you're not doing typos and stuff.
Yes.
And then you might go through and do a dialogue edit or a humour edit or whatever. So there are various layers that you would put over it.
Oh, wow.
Once it's ready, I would send it off to my professional editor. So I do pay somebody to go through the book, make sure that it's all kind of up to scratch.
Absolutely.
And then I've self-published them after that.
Oh, wow. Yeah. It's like, I have heard that, obviously I'm not an author myself, so I don't really know per se, but I heard it's quite a very intense process of going from, to the editing stage, to the writing stage, to the publishing, to, it's like a lot more trickier than a lot of people make it out to be.
Yeah, it's a very intense process. It can be, there's a lot of steps involved. And I think in order to be a successful author and to make a lot of money out of the work that you make is a lot of work. And financially, I'm not making a huge amount of money from my work, but for me, that's not where I'm ready to spend all of my energy.
Fair enough.
I'm like, I don't know, whatever. If like 5 of my friends read the book, then that's successful. You know?
Oh, well, that's it. You know, if at least you have a handful of people who read them and enjoy the novels, I think that you're doing already something good there.
Yeah.
And I think that's amazing.
I can always, spend money on marketing when I've got a bigger backlog.
Yeah, well, that's it. No, that's amazing. And so what are some of the, what's the main genres that you work in when it comes to writing your novels?
So all 4 of my novels are romance novels. So they're generally speaking set in contemporary Melbourne. Because that's what I know, that's what I'm comfortable with. I think Melbourne's a really great city to talk about and to I do a lot of inner north suburban because that's where I live. And so I do spend a lot of time in my novels kind of trying to wrangle themes in there. So, I'm a fairly intensely feminist person. I have a lot of very strong opinions, particularly around family violence is a theme that comes up quite often, domestic violence, abusive ex-partners, that sort of thing. I'm really fascinated by family dynamics as well.
Okay.
So in one of my novels, My Mother's Secret, is a little bit more about 2 sisters. So their mother passes away and they have to kind of deal with going through all of her things and that sort of journey. And there is a romance in there as well. I've always been really fascinated by family histories, histories of intergenerational trauma as well. So the idea that if your parents or their parents had something really horrendous happen to them, what does that mean in terms of their parenting style? What does that mean in terms of the environment that you grow up in? And what does that mean for the decisions that you then make? So I don't know whether you would necessarily get that from the writing, but that's definitely what I'm thinking about when I'm doing it.
Yeah, it seems like you do a lot based on a lot of personal things that you yourself see or you experience in life, and because it's and that topic of what is brought down by each generation, that is such a huge thing that a lot of people don't talk about enough.
Yeah, and it is influenced heavily by my own family history. One of my great-grandparents was brought up in an orphanage, so she was given up as a baby and she was brought up in an orphanage. And as a result, didn't have any kind of parent. So she grew up, she didn't know what a mother should do. And so her relationship with her own daughter was quite strange. And then it sort of gets passed along. So,
it can be really hard.
Yeah.
And to even break the chain of saying that, alright, just because, there was maybe 2 or 3 generations of this occurring, to be able to stand up and say, no, you know what, I'm going to do this differently. I know that I had this type of as you said, you had an estranged parent and all that sort of thing. Just because I grew up with that doesn't mean that my future kids will experience that as well.
Yeah.
And that takes a lot of courage.
It does, and it takes a lot of work. There's research that suggests it takes 7 generations for trauma to work its way out, and particularly around, people of colour, Aboriginal groups with stolen generations. That's going to take a long time to work itself out. It's something that I'm really passionate about.
Yeah, wow, no, that's really awesome. I like how you actually focus on, things that relate to people and that people can really, that it speaks to them as they read, and I think that's incredible.
Yeah, it's kind of subversive.
Yeah?
I write entertaining stories, but I'll put in these things that you have to think about.
Yeah, just to have a contemplation and think about going, how can this relate to me and all that. That's fantastic. And so what are some of the other, you said that, what was My Mother's Secret?
Yes, so My Mother's Secret was my 3rd novel.
Yep.
My most recent novel is called Singular Focus, and it's a urban fantasy romance.
Yep.
So the story is about a girl, Freya. I can tell you this part because it's in the blurb.
Yep, that's completely fine.
I'm I can't spoil it.
No, absolutely. People have to read it.
Yeah. So on her 28th birthday, she is attacked by a raven, and the raven takes her eye.
Ow.
And it's the start of essentially a magical transformation in Melbourne.
Okay.
So there's magic going on. She has powers that she didn't have before. there's a mystical plague, which I did start writing before the pandemic, so apologies for putting a pandemic in there.
Whoopsie.
Oops. Yeah, and so then she meets up with this guy Jacob, who has to help her save the world.
Yeah. Sounds interesting. It sounds like a very compelling read.
Yeah, I hope so.
That's awesome. I'll definitely have to leave a link to that so people can check it out, and I definitely will be purchasing a copy myself, because that sounds like something I'll be very interested in reading, because I love that type of fantasy take on things, and sounds very interesting.
Yeah, I love the alternate universe.
Amazing.
The like the Harry Potter verse, and there's lots of different work out there, which is like our current culture, and then you stick some random extra aspect on it.
Just chuck it there.
I mean, Marvel's a classic example of essentially an alternate universe.
Oh, absolutely. They're already now starting to do more alternate universes right now, because it's such a huge thing these days as well, talking about those different types of universes, going, well, what if this, what if that, it's like all that sort of thing, and it's like, that's really cool. No, I love that you love to focus on that. That's really cool. And so I'll ask you about with your modelling. So so how long ago did you start modelling, and what was your thoughts on getting into it? So why did you start doing it?
So I started modelling in 2014. I had a friend who was an artist, and he was also a model, so he suggested that I pose for him, and I did that, so that was great. And then he said, oh, by the way, you can get paid to do this. I was like, oh, that sounds great. I've got
that's amazing.
I need some money coming through. So I joined the Life Model Society. I went through their workshop back in 2014, and that was really great, because it helped me to understand the expectations of my role, what I should be expecting from employers, some safety stuff for me around both suspicious employers and occupational health and safety.
Yes. Taking
care of my body. My body is my tool as a model, and I therefore have to take care of it so I can have a long career.
Absolutely.
So that was one of the reasons I did it. I also have some very strong feelings around body positivity and embracing the body that you've been given. I struggle with my size and my shape and my appearance, and I think one of the ways that I have become friendlier to my body is by seeing my body reflected to me through the eyes of an artist. So artists will do, particularly if they're doing drawings or something, I'm like, I can't believe that you see me like that.
Yeah.
Because people will make beautiful drawings of me.
Oh, absolutely.
And it really is mind-blowing, the kind of attention to detail and the love and the joy that you see in people's work.
Absolutely.
So I love going around and like looking at the art that people have done, and I'm like just having a sticky beak, and it's really good. Yeah.
No, I actually am on the same boat as you. Like, I had, from past relationships, a lot of body confidence issues, and that was one thing as well that helped me get through that, is just going, oh, well, look at these, the way that artists see me is like, man, that's awesome, and it makes you really feel grateful and very it makes you a lot more confident in who you are, and to go, well, you know what, if people can see me like this, then why can't I see myself like this, And I think I had another person who I interviewed who said the same thing, going, she was a plus size model as well, and she kind of was like, why can't I see myself like this when other people can? So then she was just like, you know what, I'm going to see myself like this now, because I have no reason to think like that, because it's just all, unfortunately, most of our problems are up here, and it can be very hard to get out of that. But then once, I think definitely for me as well, that modelling was one of those things that did help me go, you know what, I'm okay with who I am.
Yeah.
Because people are creating art out of my form, and, probably the same with you, people creating art out of your form, and it's like, it's amazing.
Yeah, and it's a collaboration. You're never working on your own.
No.
There is always the artist. I mean, there's an argument that artists only ever create self-portraits, which is true to a certain extent. But I think the other thing is that the society that we live in at the moment is very shame-based. We live in a shame-based culture. We live in a culture that commodifies very specific types of bodies. And I think there are a lot of bodies that people inhabit that they don't really feel connection to.
Yeah.
And for me, modelling is incredibly meditative
Absolutely.
thing to do. You know, you're very embodied. You have to be very present, because staying still for up to 20 minutes at a time is highly unnatural.
We'll talk about that, yeah.
Yeah, so it's really unnatural to sit there and not to scratch your nose or shift or whatever. You know, so there is an element of having to concentrate on your own body so that you don't move or sag or twist or whatever.
Oh, absolutely. It's a lot of pressure on yourself. And to go like, all right, I can't move. Oh, there's an itch. Nope, I can't itch that. You know, it's like, it's the worst when it's a nose itch and you're just like trying to move your nose, going, come on. That's better. You know.
The worst for me is a couple of times I've had air conditioning right in my eyeballs, and there was one I was working at Heidi, the art gallery, Heidelberg, and on one side of my face the air conditioning was like right in my eye.
Oh no.
And so my eyes started like streaming. And so the artists on this side of the room thought I was crying.
It's like, oh my gosh, this girl is a really great actress.
I'm not crying. I'm just like, I've just got air conditioning in my eyeballs. Like, I'm so sorry. I'm not upset.
Everyone was like thinking you're acting, going, oh my gosh, she's very dedicated. It's like, no, it's just because there's an air conditioner in my face.
And I had a 4-hour job at Monash University once, and it was a repeated reclining pose. So it was the same pose. I was in this kind of enormous deck chair with another model. But the air conditioning was right in my eyes, and so I had to do the whole session with my eyes closed and not fall asleep.
Oh, yeah.
And because if you fall asleep, you'll move, and then you ruin the pose. But it was really challenging.
It would have been. And like, have you had the time where you have, like, I know that I had one time where I was in a session and I actually zoned out for like the minimalist of seconds, where people had to actually come up to me, hey, Jaden, you know, because they thought I was passed out, and it was like I had a out-of-body experience where I just wasn't there, and I could hear, but for some reason I wasn't responding, because I was just like, it's such a case of meditation that I was about to pass out. Like, have you ever had something like that happen?
I don't think so.
Maybe that's just me.
It might just be you. You might have just gone into like a really deep Zen state.
Oh, yeah, it was like, no. But you haven't had that?
I haven't, no. I've had a lot of states where, because I try to do challenging poses, and so even the like reclining ones are moderately uncomfortable in some way. You know, like if you're doing like a reclining twisty pose, then something is going to be moderately uncomfortable.
Yes.
Particularly the like short ones, I'm like trying to be quite athletic and whatever.
Oh, yes. I think we all do with the short ones.
Yeah, like you're throwing your body around and like, hey, check me out.
It's like, it's always I think you always have to be awake, but I think for the pose that I was doing, it was a 20-minute one, and I was just so relaxed in that pose, and then I think I accidentally was a bit too relaxed.
I have heard it happens relatively frequently.
Yeah, because they just get, I think, because, I don't know, with you, like, you just, for me, I've just gotten so comfortable with posing, like, it just is like a second nature. It's become such a second nature to me, where I just feel so comfortable just being in a pose or just posing for a class, and you just get to as you said, a meditative state where you're just like, you know, you just feel relaxed, and you just feel like, all right, you know, feels nice, this is all good, and then you just realize for a split second that you go into this different world, and then you come back to it going, oh wait, no, I need to be a bit more, like, concentrate a bit more with what I'm doing, because I'm actually in a class right now.
Yeah.
And you just have to keep reminding yourself, coming back from meditative to reality, kind of going back, forth.
Yeah.
It's always quite a challenge.
Yeah.
So I'll ask you you said that you were in a band, so tell me a bit about your band.
So the band that I'm in at the moment is called Wasted Monday. We are an indie rock punk folk kind of trio. So there's myself, I play bass guitar and backing vocals. We have a lead vocalist called Lou, who also plays rhythm guitar, and then we have a lead guitarist called Aaron.
Oh, awesome.
So we actually don't have any percussion at the moment.
Yeah, I was going to say no drums.
Yeah, we had a drummer for a while, but she left the band for creative differences, which
it happens
all the time.
Yeah, you'd be very surprised how many times that happens.
And so we haven't actually got a replacement drummer for her yet, but
fair enough.
We may or may not do that. We're sort of, like, I did a press release. We've got a new album out. It's our first album So
That's exciting.
it's I think 9 tracks, and it's called Sweat, Shake, Palpitate, which is a reference to a song. And yeah, so we've put that out. It's got a few of the tracks have drum tracks on them. The producer helped us by putting a drum track on that. But you know, some of the songs that we have are a little bit country, like the little sort of bittersweet breakup songs.
Okay.
And then some of our other songs sort of verge on the end of like kind of industrial noise punk kind of. Like we've got some really experimental songs. The rhythm guitarist has it tuned to like just an open tuning, which is a very, apparently Lou Reed did it a lot. So she's just like doing this drone thing. She's put like analog delays on her vocals, so it's like echoing and stuff.
Oh, that's cool.
And then we just put heavy distortion and
So you're not afraid to experiment with your music?
No, definitely
I think
not.
I think that's great. I think for a band to be able to say, hey, you know, we're going to be experimenting doing this, you know, not being afraid to go out of their genre, that's, you know, I think every band should give that a try, and if it doesn't work, then I mean it doesn't work, but if it does, you know, it works out well.
We've got a couple of like cute poppy type songs that you know, they've got like good hooks and then you get them stuck in your head a little bit. But they're not all like that.
Yeah. I'm very excited to hear that. Is the album out now, or is it?
Yeah, so we have it up on SoundCloud and on Bandcamp, so we're accepting
cool.
You can purchase it on Bandcamp. Yeah, and we've got a couple of gigs coming up, which is really great.
That's really awesome.
Now that we're coming out of COVID.
Be a lot more now.
Touch wood, I probably shouldn't have said that out loud.
No, that's all good. No, that's all good. Like, I mean, we're doing really well right now for case numbers and all that, so I think hopefully everything's just going to look up for us now. Yeah. But, you know, that's really exciting that you're going to be doing a few gigs coming up.
Yeah, I'm going to bring my own microphone, though, because I'm like, microphones are disgusting.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough.
Even before COVID, I was like, I'm just going to pop my own microphone on here.
It's like, does anyone looking? You know, just plug in my own mic.
Because I'm one of those terrible people that because I'm playing guitar at the same time, I'm like, I need to know where it is by touching the microphone with my mouth.
That makes sense. Like, and to be honest, I think there's a lot of musicians that literally get up and close and personal with their mic, so I think that's just a common thing.
You're supposed to have a little gap.
Yeah, you are, but like some people literally go up to it, like nearly making out with their mic.
Like eating
Oh yeah, when you just see this performance and it's like, oh my gosh, they're literally about to eat their microphone.
Yeah.
I don't know if that might taste good or if that's not going to be good.
Oh, it sounds like it's going to taste really bad.
It's like, oh, it's a disappearing act. They're just going to go, oh, where's the mic? And now
just
it's
the lead.
It's like, oh, there it is.
Yeah.
So what would you say the name of the band was?
We're called Wasted Monday.
So I have to ask, where did that name come from?
So it depends who you ask in the band as to why we called it that. So if you ask Lou, it was her suggestion. She used to drink heavily on Mondays, and also sometimes drink heavily on Sundays. So she would go into work, she'd still be drunk.
Oh gosh.
Or she would be drinking after work on Mondays. But for me, it speaks more to the idea of like going to work for a corporation and like just sitting in your desk on a Monday and just like wasting your life. Or alternatively, going into work and doing absolutely fucking nothing on a Monday because you're tired, so you've wasted that day. I mean, it has multiple meanings.
I understand that. I think that's why I don't work a corporate job, because I don't think for me that sounds awful. But in all respect to people who are, if people are watching that do corporate, I think that's just personally, for me, I just am not made for that.
Yeah.
And that sounds exhausting thinking about it. So I respect people who can do that.
Yeah.
And also, they say Monday's always the hardest day of the week because, you know, after a weekend, you have to go into work the first day and just like, oh my gosh. For people who go to work and they're like, oh, bloody Mondays. Yeah. It's like start of the week, and then when they go, you know, happy hump day, Wednesday, and then Friday's like, thank goodness it's Friday.
Yeah.
So it's like, I love that it has multiple meanings. I like that because, you know, but then it's also kind of like open to interpretation for
definitely
whoever hears the group. But I do like that. That's really cool.
Yeah.
And so how many, so you said this is your first ever album?
This is our first album,
yeah.
So we did a few, so we recorded it in the lounge room.
Okay.
The producer has a home setup, so we recorded it essentially live in the lounge room, and because COVID and whatever.
Yeah, absolutely.
We did that late last year. But yeah, so we had a few tracks that we'd recorded semi-professionally before the drummer left the band. So there are a couple of other songs on our SoundCloud which are pre that
time.
including one of the tracks is called Oh No, which is one of the drone noise punk tracks with drums. So
okay, cool.
that one's pretty cool. Yeah.
Nice.
I mean, I always want more bass in the mix, but the sound recorders are like, you don't need that much bass, man. I'm like, you need
calm
more
down,
boys,
calm
need more
down.
bass.
No, I think that's like you'd be very surprised. How you say you recorded in your lounge room or in a lounge room. You'd be very surprised how many.
It sounds really good.
Yeah, like I'll have to give it a listen myself. Like I'll have to listen to it. But sometimes, like a lot of musicians, you'd be very surprised started. Like I think it was my mate told me it was either Silverchair or Foo Fighters. Like their first album was recorded. It was one of those bands. Their first album.
Probably Foo Fighters because Silverchair won Unearthed.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah. So, but yeah, their first album was recorded in their garage.
Yeah.
Like like a lot of people would be very surprised to know that like when it comes to first albums that artists do, they just work with what they got because obviously they don't have the money to hire out a studio or anything like that. So
the other thing is, I think one of our decisions around that was that we wanted a sound that we would be able to reproduce live.
Yeah.
So we recorded it live. We're like, we want this to sound like what we're going to sound like. At a gig.
No, that's it.
Truth in advertising and stuff.
Well, yeah, because that's another thing with like when you hear some live performers and they sound very different to what they sound on record, because either like voice, synthesizing and all that sort of thing does really help to make them sound better, but then you hear them live and they're like, oh gosh, this is not as good as what So you're just being truthful, going, this is what you're going to get, and I think that's great.
Although I do have to admit that being able to do your vocals separately has a great advantage, because if you're trying to do vocals and guitar at the same time, you can fuck up one of them.
It's like, whoops, redo.
It's punk, it's fine.
It's meant to sound like that. That's all good.
Yeah.
No, well, that's really awesome. Like, how has the sales been going for your first release?
It's only been out for like a week and a half. So,
okay. So it's only just starting?
Yeah, we're sending it out to like radio stations and stuff. So like community RRR and stuff.
Oh, awesome.
So they're going to pick it up.
Yeah, well, fingers crossed for that.
Yeah,
all
maybe
the best
we'll make
for
some
that.
money or not.
Fingers crossed. Yeah. All the best for that.
Yeah.
And so I'll ask you as a final question.
Yeah.
So when it comes to, so obviously you've mentioned that like what your future projects are coming up and all that sort of thing. What do you have any advice for people who are wanting to do like being an author, being a model, being a musician? What would you say to them if they wanted to pursue it?
I think I have a few pieces of advice.
Go for it.
The first one is, if you enjoy doing it, just fucking do it. Like,
I agree.
do something for the joy of doing it. You don't need to be quote unquote successful or like commercially successful to validate having to do something.
Yeah.
Everybody needs to earn a living, and you don't necessarily have to earn a living from your art to make it valid. I would suggest finding your tribe, finding your community. I have had a lot of really great support from the Life Model Society for my modelling work. I think networking is really important. If you're going to try and get into a creative endeavour, spending that time getting to know other people in the industry is really worthwhile.
Absolutely.
I would really caution people against doing things for free. There is a lot of, particularly in the modelling industry, there's a lot of like, do it for exposure or whatever, and in the music industry as well, there's a lot of like, do it for free, do it for like very little cost. I mean, there is like value in doing a few things for free, but there is a point at which you have to start valuing your own time. And your own commitment. And the culture that we live in does not pay for art.
And that is really sad.
So we need to start teaching people that paying for art is something that they should be doing.
That helps our culture keep going.
Yeah.
But no, I absolutely agree. I think definitely you need a good support base around you, both professionally, but then also personally, because I think having that, not just personally, like, because you have that base where like even though people aren't part of it, you go like, no, like I want you to keep pursuing that because you're passionate about it.
Yeah.
But then having that professional support is always good because you have people who you can relate to in this line of work, and I think that's amazing as well.
Yeah. So I think my final thoughts would be, don't give up because somebody says that you're not doing what they like. You won't please everybody. They
Absolutely
go in the bin. But equally, you will never know everything.
Oh,
you must always be learning. And as soon as you think you know everything, you may as well just go in the bin as well.
Well, I mean, I think it's like with everything, if you've pretty much learned, let's say you've learned everything, then what's the point, I think you should always be learning.
Yeah.
Like, if you're not learning anything, then you might need to reconsider what you're doing. Like, I actually agree with you. I think for me, if I don't go away with, like, new lessons and new stuff that I've learned, I feel like I haven't really done much. Like, but, when I've gone away and I've learned something new, I feel hyped to go out and do it again, So it makes you more passionate, going, oh, man, that was amazing. I'm going to go out and do that again because, I don't know what I'm going to learn next, So I think you should always be learning. As a creative person, you need to always be learning because then I think for me it makes it interesting. Like, so I 100% agree with that.
Plus, there's research that says that learning is the thing that keeps you young.
Absolutely.
Don't tell me to cite it because I couldn't tell you where it's from. But
are you sure? No, that's okay. Just kidding.
It sounds true, right?
No, I think that's true. Like, I think it's just, it keeps you, because when you're like young, you're always learning stuff. And then in a way, like you should always be learning stuff, and it keeps you, keeps you going because you feel like that, I think, I get that.
Yeah.
But, well, I want to say a huge thank you for coming into my channel and talking about all your amazing creative endeavors. And I look forward to, well, first of all, hearing your album, reading one of your stories, and and also collaborating in the future. Like, so we've also got some ideas that we'll be working on together as well, which will be really awesome.
That sounds great.
Oh, fantastic.
Thanks for having me.
That's okay. And so everyone watching, thank you so much for watching. If you'd like to check out Fleur's work, I will leave links to everything down below. I'll leave her band link, her novels, so you can check them out, and even her modeling account. So go and support her. As I said so many times, let's support local artists, let's support the local community, and let's help people pursue their dreams, and let's get them out there. Comment, like, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next episode.